All right, let's call the meeting to order. This is Northwest Communications Union District Governing Board meeting. It is September 2nd at 6:06 p.m. We do have Dean sitting in for Emily at the NRPC offices at 75 Fairfield Street in St. Albans. Any changes or adjustments to tonight's agenda? Okay, hearing none, let's move into roll call. I'm just going to go by municipality because that's the easiest way to do this. Give me 1 second. Ilamont. Not here. Alberg. There's two of you.
Ken and Stu
I am here. Stu McCown.
Hi,
And
Gage.
J.R. Cox. Oh,
and JR. Sorry about that, JR.
Oh, that's all right. JR, I keep forgetting to add, I always forget about the village. Highgate. Sheldon.
Jake Kane from Sheldon.
Fairfield. Georgia. Hold on. Trying to find a pen. My daughter is in my office today. Fairfax.
Dave Stanley here.
Berkshire. I represent Enosburg in the village of Enosburg Falls. Bakersfield.
Brenda Churchill for Bakersfield.
Montgomery.
Everett McGinley from Montgomery.
Did I miss anybody? Okay. Approval of last meeting minutes, which was the 5th of August.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Motion made by Ken, seconded by Jake. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. We do not have a treasurer's report tonight because Emily is on her way to Maine. So we'll have that next meeting. VCBB Vacuda update. Vacuda canceled their meeting. They couldn't get enough people together, I guess. I did sit in on the Vermont Community Broadband Board, which is now kind of taken the place of the public service. Rob and Christine currently are the only active employees. Much of the discussion today was staffing up. They're seeking legal, engineering, finance, a number of positions, but they're currently working on that. And there's quite a lot of discussion, and there'll be a big discussion. There'll be a big discussion on network design, having a template or standard understanding of what network should look like across the state. That discussion will happen on September 15th, which again, I plan to be there. And we'll see what comes out of that. I think it's good that they have that, so there'll be some interconnection between the CUDs. It's not going to be vastly different, but certainly we don't want to see overlap, and we don't want to have different technologies used if we can avoid that. So that's something that they're working on piecing together for everyone. So that's all I have. Does anyone else have anything else? I know Emily's not here. She sits in on some of that stuff. Does anyone else have anything relevant for Vermont Community Broadband or Vacuda? Okay. Next item, executive director position description. I can pull that up on the screen. Everett, do you want to speak to that? You were kind of the hands that kind of typed this one out, and we did meet to discuss this, the subcommittee, PMO, right?
Right?
PMO?
Yeah,
We
so
did,
we met.
we did talk about it.
Yeah, we met
Um,
earlier, I think this week, and went over this. Made a few changes, they were minor. So at this point, the PMO subcommittee has approved this. And then we need to have the entire board approve this. Does anyone have any comments or questions or any input on this?
The only comment I have ever is it's excellent.
Thank you. I started with the Lamoille one and then basically kind of threw it away and wrote it from scratch. But anyhow, this is what we ended up with.
So the next step for this is to get this back out in the world, rerun this posting, see if we can drum up interest in this executive director position, or kind of reworked of what we were calling the broadband administrator position, which is kind of gone by the wayside. It's not something that we attempted that. We didn't get any interest, and we decided to refocus this rather than do a contract and making this position more substantial and creating an employment opportunity out of it rather than just a contract. That's kind of the approach we're going for. So that's where we're at. Do I hear a motion to accept the job posting or description as is so we can get it back out?
So moved.
I'll
Second.
second that.
Motion made by Everett, seconded by Brenda, I believe. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Additional information on where we stand. Something Sean Coleman was initially hunting down some information on, our transition from a contract into an employment opportunity. And we needed to look into benefits and, how we were going to structure this. We had potentially discussed doing a municipal sponsored type thing where basically a municipality or the potential for NRPC to serve as kind of a pass through, if you will. Municipality piece didn't seem to be a great fit. I think there was a lot of optics concerns. There was a discussion had with NRPC. NRPC felt in a similar way. So NRPC basically would be only willing if all other avenues were not fruitful. So that leaves us with we need to become our own employer. Other CUDs have done this. NEK and Lamoille, they're just a few weeks ahead of us in this process. So we would need to go through, basically the private market, working with a payroll company in order to do that. So that's kind of where we're at with this. Emily's continuing to work on this. But yeah, questions?
If we have to do the employment back office stuff ourselves rather than NRPC, it's pretty straightforward. You don't actually need a payroll company because QuickBooks can do that for you. That's what we did with Cold Holiday Canada. And then, the benefits thing, there's a way to work that out. So
There's
I still think it would be better in general to have NRPC do it because they have established benefits platform. So, if nothing else, I'll run that past them again.
you're certainly welcome to. I mean, direct from Catherine, that that wasn't something in a kind of a similar way. From an optics point of view, they felt that having this position wouldn't look, I mean, they're, similar light. They operate off of grants and they're a public entity as well, and they need to be transparent. And I think they had some concerns over that. But they certainly said that, they want to continue to support us and help us, but in this approach, they would prefer if we found another alternative
Do you think that's safe?
or became our own employer.
These are,
I think it's a matter of timing. It would just make things work a lot more quickly, faster if they picked it up originally, and then we can transition
I don't know
to
what the difference
becoming
is.
our own employer at a slightly later point in time. Again, I'll try to have that discussion with them.
Emily additionally
I
did
think it-
some, go ahead.
Yeah, I think putting the cart before the horse here, I'll get somebody hired. We can work out these details over the next few weeks because we're not gonna have anybody beating our door down. We may only have one or two candidates, who knows? Let's get the ad out there and see if we got people.
Yeah, certainly we need to get it back out there. Just to, because we were going the employee route and not the contract route, we need to kind of find out some of these items, or at least kind of start lining them up and trying to understand it a little bit better. Emily additionally did some comparison of where the other CUDs are in terms of benefits and salary. And I can show you where she came out on averages. And it was very broad. It's very different, but this is what she sent me this afternoon. I can blow this up a little more. CUD that is as high as 180. I was in awe of that.
Damn.
I don't know how exactly. We all have the same funding sources, so I was in shock of where exactly.
That's in state?
Yes.
I'm still seeing the job description on the screen. Did you?
Oh, sorry. Hold on. New share. There we go. So this is what Emily was kind of working with. Again, this is that Lamoille, NEK, and a few others in Southern Vermont were kind of working with in terms of salary, insurance. Lamoille's doing a 3% match for IRA. So like these are all items that they were, again, it's all good considerations, and we needed to kind of take these costs into consideration when looking at this.
Do you have a list of what the other CUDs are actually? This is just a range.
Yeah,
Do you have a list of
Emily's
what-
got this. Emily's got the specifics. I asked Emily to head this up. I don't have them.
Okay.
Just to clarify, Sean, are these current salaries, or are these just what other CUDs are going out with that we would have to maybe potentially have to compete against?
This is roughly the range. I asked Emily to kind of gather kind of information on what the other CUDs are paying for salary. When she told me the 180,000, I was in shock, but that was way outside of the range of what the rest are doing. But this is kind of giving us an idea of the potential cost. With benefits, salary, of kind of like what the range of the other CUDs are doing, and any other additional benefits that they're putting in there. This kind of gives us an idea of what that is. I know that we've been additionally anticipating the drop of H360, which we now know will support. It's going to be a rolling fund, and it will support administrative costs. The first round of that becomes available to. So good to know. So this is why it was important for us to know this, because we will need to craft a budget for that, for administrative and capacity building, pre-construction costs. And that's why it's good for us to have these numbers, because that was coming available sooner than later. So I was surprised to hear it's coming available tomorrow, but we're prepared to craft a budget for that first round of H360 now.
So something to
Fun.
keep in mind,
Sure.
it may be premature, but I did check with the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, and a CUD can become a member.
Mhm.
I don't know if we'd have the same membership status as towns and villages, but what I'm getting at there is I know, for example, the town of Alberg gets health insurance and other of employer related help and benefits through VLCT.
Yeah.
So again, it's premature, and I'm not sure if the CUD would have that exact same status, but it's something that we can check on when the time is right.
Rip.
Yeah, that would be a great solution.
Okay.
Can I ask the terrible question? Every business I've ever started, I like to look at, and I'm done. The worst case scenario. What happens if we don't find somebody? What happens then? Like nobody does it.
We have to keep looking. I mean, if there's no, certainly the board will have to continue to press forward and try to do work, and just, and so will I, have to continue to kind of work at our current pace of things, which, isn't ideal. I think having a day-to-day executive director will certainly accelerate our progress. Ideally, we will. We've asked, there were 3 candidates for Lamoille. Of that, obviously, they chose one. So we have, at the very least, Emily does, a few individuals that we can send this directly to be like, hey, this is another opportunity that's available if you're interested. They might not be. Maybe they lived right in Lamoille, or maybe not that they need to be, but so we
Yeah,
certainly have
no,
it.
that- I mean,
We have a short list of names, and we can put it back out there. I mean, we're going to do the same posting locations that we did before, put it out in the Fiber Broadband Association job board as well. I mean, those are all great places to put this stuff. I mean, all we can do is put it out there and hope that someone sees it.
Well, an ancillary question is, I'm not quite clear about this. Is it only in state, or is it out of state as well?
Out of state. I mean, ideally, it's somebody who knows some inner workings and is familiar with the Vermont system. You know what I mean? Like,
You mean the Vermont way?
That's generous.
yeah. Somebody that may potentially know some of the players, and I think there's some benefit to that. Because certainly having someone from out of state who doesn't know anybody, and it's going to have a much longer ramp up time than somebody can kind of come in from day one. But I mean, it depends on what we find. I mean, someone could not have any of that experience, but have a wealth of experience in something else that might be just as beneficial. So it depends on what we find.
That's why I'm asking. Again, I go worst case, work back. So we should link the idea of out of state to the state incentives to get people to come here to be remote workers.
I mean, the Fiber Broadband Association's nationwide. So it's not just Vermont that goes out to. And
No. I'm saying if you come to Vermont, I believe they still have that incentive if you come here and settle here outside.
Yeah, that stipend 7,500, I think it is now.
Yeah. So
with catches.
Yeah.
With catches, yeah, sure. But what I'd suggest is if we don't find anybody in state, and again, I'm just looking, again, this is my way of doing things, maybe not other people's, but I like to plan ahead. If we don't get anybody in state, we should consider linking the incentives from the state when we put out the ad.
I believe that incentive is only offered to people who are employed out of the state, who are moving into the state.
No, I think it's if you move into the state and you're a remote worker, you get it. I mean,
No, you have to work. You have to work from Jake's right. You have to work from an out of state company.
And then move in and work here?
Yeah, you have to be a remote worker living in Vermont, but work for an out-of-state company.
My God.
It's a very specific stipulation for that program.
That is stupid as hell. I'm just going to say it on the record.
So that's now we have an idea. We have a ballpark range of kind of where the other CUDs are sitting and kind of what things look like. So there we go.
Okay.
All right. RISI third-party review and update, Rural Innovations, something. So hold on. Rural Innovation Strategies Incorporated. They were tasked with reviewing. It was a part of it was like the last step in our feasibility to have a third-party review of the feasibility done by Matrix. RISI conducted that. We received it, and it made its way to the state today. For those who are interested in looking at that, that is located in our shared drive under the PMO folder. So primarily PMO, but if you want to take a look at it, you can. It basically just confirms some of the things we already knew about it, and they made some assumptions and looked at it, and so it is considered confidential, so we can't pull it up here. But certainly for the board members who are curious, that is available in the drive to take a look at. So that's where we're at now. Once the state reviews that, they hit all the check boxes, we can then move forward to our business planning phase. So they will let us know. I was told as soon as, potentially within a day, they will give us kind of a thumbs up or a green light to say like, yep, you're good to go with the next step. Again, this all goes back to the NRPC Broadband Innovation Grant. So we still have, which we have a little over $30,000 to do our business planning phase. We can do one of two things once we get to that point. Once we do get the green light to move forward, we can choose one of the original 5, I believe. Choose one of those original 5 to conduct the business plan for us. We don't have to go back to RFP process and do procurement things again. We can choose one of those, or we can do RFQ and send it out to select just 3 select companies should they be interested. Yeah, so we can go either route. We can, we know 5 entities we're interested in doing the full project. So likely, whoever we choose out of that group would want to do the business plan, or we can do RFQ if their original parties weren't a part of that original 5. So, or parties aren't part of that original 5. So that's what we can do at this point. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Subcommittees, PMO kind of already went, but go ahead, Brenda. Brenda,
She's
still here?
gone. I think she's gone.
Yep. Yeah, I'll cover it. So, PMO, we looked at the executive director position, discussed that a little bit, and ideally we get somebody off of this. Just kind of make some revisions. And finance, I believe, met. Anybody from finance?
Yes, we did. A very good meeting.
Okay, good. I
There's
saw
a document. There's a document that if people haven't seen it yet, we asked Emily to essentially summarize what we went over. She did a great job.
Yep.
So I would, if people want it, you get it from Emily when she comes back. But it's we've got a path now.
Okay, good. And I think as we knew finance particularly was a little bit early, but I think now that we have, ideally we fill this executive director position, that the executive director will work with that group, as well as we continue to do grants. H360 is just kicking off. There's going to be additional opportunities that I think would be great to have that group in place and have their foundation. So thanks for meeting and clarifying your guys' role. Communications, Ken?
Yeah, we got a few things on the go. Dave's working on a large employer or mid to large employer area outreach, discussing issues related to remote work. And it's a side door into just getting them introduced to the CUD and getting it more involved with the CUD. We've got a plan to move forward with the roundtable discussion seminar or info discussion series. Heard back from Northwest Access I believe they're called, JR, you can correct me if I've got that wrong. I think it's NW Access, and very enthusiastic response. They're seeing this not as a production that they would do. They're seeing this as a Northwest CUD production. We would have full access to facilities, and they would train, coach, equipment. So it could be an in-studio production, which could be simulcast via Zoom, as well as recorded and edited for later rebroadcast and smaller snippets. I just sent one email out to a politician, Senator Corey Parent, asking Corey if he'd be interested in participating in the roundtable. I haven't heard back yet. We have a good list of others to go after. And then Sean and I are working on what will be our first sort of formal advertising. We'll be doing some Facebook experiments, and it's all designed just to generate more interest amongst townsfolk and their select boards in the CUD, and to increase participation in the CUD. I think that's it.
Okay. Member updates. Does anyone, I'm not going to go around the room, but does anyone have anything additional to share from their individual community?
I threw in the chat just to keep folks aware of where things are at with Alberg and Matrix. And with a signed MOU, Matrix went ahead and they published what they're calling a pre-subscription website with some plans and tiers. So that's what they're up to at this point. They need to hit 460 subscribers or get interest from 460. It's a no obligation at this point for things to really proceed. And that's probably several months out. In-town reactions are very mixed. People are very confused and not really bothering to get informed. The comments in town range from like, well, has anyone asked Comcast? Or anyway, it's just
that's a
so
perennial comment as well. They've been asking that for months.
right. So we're moving forward carefully, methodically, but also it definitely feels like it's a house of cards in terms of if the select board is going to stay behind this as requests for money start coming in. We as the advisory committee have assured the select board that we're not going to ask for money until there is a 460 subscriber commitment, which means Matrix is all in. And so that we're being real careful, tiptoeing around that. And there's also the plan that we will have a subscriber charge if this comes to fruition. That'll be like a repayment type fee that so over time its subscribers are actually repaying the town for any monies that they have to borrow and out of pocket that the town had to do. So it's just it's a real challenge keeping the townsfolk informed and engaged in managing misinformation and distracting information.
Thanks, Ken. Anybody else?
I only have one thing. I've been trying to get decent broadband here or something close to it for years. I just finally signed up with GlobalNet for whatever it's worth. I'm sure you guys know about this, but in my case, the line of sight over to St. Albans is pretty clear. And it's the first time in 2.5 years that I have steady internet. It's not the best in the world, but man, it is way better than it dropping every 20 seconds. So essentially, if you know of this, which I'm sure you do, but if you don't, I'd look into it because I went through every avenue. And this is the only one that I'm all of a sudden going, wow, I can actually do business here.
Yeah, I have a line of sight in Fairfax to the towers on Mansfield at the forehead. It is, I believe, 20 miles in any type of weather. We don't have any internet. It's pretty bleak, really.
So wait, just out of curiosity, Dave, are you saying that you do have global net to their tower?
We do.
Yeah,
we
and
need something
is it
closer.
working for you?
No, not really, because I think it's up, 4,500 feet, and there's a lot of weather.
Yeah.
We need something closer.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we'll
Well,
see.
for whatever it's worth for me, and again, I'm just putting this out there in case people are on this committee or people are still struggling. We do have line of sight. We're right on the lake. It's right across from St. Albans Bay, and we get it. And I've had it for 3 days now, and with different types of weather. And it is, again, it's not amazing. It's 30 up, 10 down, but man, it is constant. And that's the only thing that's been messing me up for all these years. So if you haven't tried GlobalNet as an interim thing until we get all our own fiber in, I'd recommend it, because at this point I'm going to cancel Consolidated tomorrow. They can go jump on it as far as I'm concerned.
Thanks, Stu.
Yep.
Sean, how's your Starlink doing? They've stopped building their constellation, and they don't seem to be expanding their coverage anymore. Has it been good constant coverage for you, or is it still lots of dropouts?
I noticed no, it's been pretty solid. I was pretty meticulous about my placement, so I don't have any obstructions. Very seldom do I have a no satellite connection. I had my first network outage for about 5 minutes, maybe a week ago. That was the first true, I don't know. I'm not sure what's happening. I can look at it, today, 6 seconds of outage. They have a pretty handy app that actually tracks all that. In total, it was 6 seconds.
Yeah.
So, it's, 1 second here, 2 seconds there, but it's not, all the time. I did notice that the speeds came down from what it was initially when I initially put it in. I was touching 300s for download. That's come down. It's somewhere between 100, 150 now for me. And that's pretty level. But uploads is still, it's anywhere from 10 to 50. It depends. The uploads seem to vary a lot more, but certainly downloads pretty steady.
You've got a Cadillac, dude. I just told you we get 30 down, 6 up. I mean, honest to God, and I'm happy for it. I couldn't be more happy.
Yeah.
Just don't disconnect on me. For God's sake, don't disconnect. And this one works so far. We'll see when the snow flies, but apparently through all weather, it's supposed to work.
Anybody else?
Dave, just one last question. I think it's a good way to sort of exchange information for our people. Dave, are you, the question was about Starlink. I've been checking with them every 3 days. And the idea was that they were going to open it up. They did all this really weird patchwork stuff, right? And I know people that are 20 miles from me who have Starlink, and I can't get it. And I signed up a year ago.
So
Is there
Stu,
any
the
news
thing,
for-
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jake, can you explain that?
sure I can. So the reason for the pause is they stopped putting up sats in June. It's because they're rolling out their version 2 satellites, the ones that actually have the green lasers. So the new Gen 2 satellites can actually talk amongst the satellites themselves. So if you go up and you want to say, go hit a website in Europe, you won't actually hit terrestrial and hit cables across the ocean anymore. You'll jump satellites straight from the US all the way over to Europe. So they're trying to protect their investment. So they're continuing to roll out, but it's mostly in other countries. They're trying to get all of their legal stuff done and working with as many countries as possible, laying that groundwork. So when all these Gen 2 satellites go up, they can just start adding subscribers. So that's kind of why they've backed off in domestic in the US between the Gen 2 satellites and just trying to get as many countries and other locations around the world primed to roll out. But I think you're going to start to see these Gen 2 satellites go up pretty soon. And once they get, the big rocket going too, it's going to go from 60 Gen 1 satellites to a couple hundred Gen 2 satellites at a whack, and it will expand pretty aggressively.
Yeah.
The other reason it held out is all of the lawsuits from Bezos are really putting kind of a monkey wrench in. They're continuing to sue because of constellation request changes from Starlink. So that's kind of holding up the works a bit too.
Well, no, that makes sense. I mean, they were working in particular hemispheres and particular locations, and we just happened to be lucky that we happened to be where their first satellites were, or their 50th or their 100th. But yeah, I mean, I can wait. I'm just so curious because I'm on that in a heartbeat until we get fired.
It's coming, but I will definitely echo Sean's sentiment. It's been great. I have no downtime, but I trenched a conduit out to the middle of my lawn, so there's nothing but blue sky above it. I would say my only complaint is, and it's not a complaint, is I have seen my up and down go. I was getting close to 300 too, but I would say I average 140, 150 with 20 or 30 up, but I have less than a minute of downtime on any day.
Yep.
And since
I'll put a barge out on my mooring and leave it there all winter long. If I can get a good link, I don't care where it is. I'll put it at the top of my tallest tree. I'll cut the tree down to nothing.
I think it's actually just an internet scam. I think it doesn't really exist.
Oh yes, Everett.
Is there any other business?
No, this is my only question is, sorry, PMO just met last week. Typically we meet the second week. Do we know when the next PMO meeting is going to be? The only reason I ask is I have a funeral next Thursday for my uncle, so I wouldn't, if we do end up doing it next Thursday, I would miss it.
September is a weird month with 5 Thursdays, so I don't see why it couldn't get pushed to the 16th.
Okay, I mean, I'm just throwing it out. I mean, I will certainly, if it's a different Thursday, I will certainly try to make that work.
Yeah, I mean, there's 5 Thursdays, so I mean, it could be, we could push the calendar back. I don't see why not. So we'll, you guys can figure that out, and we can check with Emily and when she gets back, and we'll see what works. Okay. Any members of the public wish to make comment? Okay, no members of the public. If nothing else, I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I will second.
Motion made by Dave, seconded by Jake. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. All right, everyone. I appreciate your time. I will check with Emily, just double check about scheduling the subcommittee meetings, and this meeting will meet again on the 7th of October, the general board, governing board. There we go. All right, everyone. Have a good night.